Right now, the Pentagon is proposing a plan to increase its military bases in and around the Middle East to try to combat a variety of terror groups continuing to wreak havoc in the area. Most recently in a Taliban attack on an Afghan airport that left at least 50 people dead. But this new U.S. plan is facing some backlash from the State Department. They're concerned about a more permanent U.S. military presence in parts of the world. More now with John Hanna. He is a former national security advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney and a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. So, John, where are they talking about putting bases in, first of all?
Well, according to the reports, we're looking at actually right now beefing up existing presence that we have in the region, John, in places like Djibouti, Niger, perhaps Cameroon, Afghanistan. But just really plussing up those bases with more air power, more special forces presence, so we can respond to any kind of emergency, to disrupt any plots against us or our allies that are beginning to emerge from that region as ISIS kind of spreads this global jihadist insurgency across the Middle East, North Africa, and into Asia now.
One of the criticisms after the Benghazi attacks is that if American military forces had been ordered out, that there wasn't really anybody close enough to do much good in the hours after the attack. At least that's the charge. So this would counteract that kind of situation?
I think it would get after that. It would give us a much more rapid response time, hopefully, by having a bulked up presence in the region that was ready to go at a moment's notice. But it really is an effort to address this fact that because we haven't got after the heart of this problem, which is the establishment of the self-declared caliphate in the heart of the Middle East in Iraq and Syria, that it is now spreading itself across the globe. So this is really a tactical move to begin responding to that growing threat from these affiliates, because these are now going to be additional platforms from which ISIS can plot, plan, and inspire attacks against our allies in Europe and against us here in the homeland.
But the argument, and it's one that probably goes back to the founding of this nation, is between the military force on the one side, the Pentagon, and the State Department, who is saying, wait a minute, you don't want to project a militaristic foreign policy. How do you answer that?
I think you answer it hands down that because we've got these new additional terrorist threats, military threats to us in the homeland, as we've seen clearly evident in places like Paris and San Bernardino now, but in Sinai and Ankara, in Beirut as well, that you've got to have the tactical capability, flexibility to respond to those threats militarily if necessary, and you've got to do the hard diplomatic work that the State Department does. But if they're not doing that in the first place and resolving these things politically and diplomatically before they rise up into this kind of immediate threat to our homeland, then I think you've got to turn to the military to have that kind of capability.
You say that this caliphate has to be destroyed, that in order to prove their theology wrong, you have to absolutely demolish ISIS.
Yeah, no, I think that the only danger in this program, John, is that it perpetuates an Obama administration effort to always respond to these things tactically rather than going after them strategically. The heart of the problem is this self-declared caliphate. It is the thing in Iraq and Syria that is fueling everything else, whether it's attacks in Europe and the United States, whether it's the spreading of this global jihadist insurgency across the region into Asia. That's the place where you've got to prove this false Quranic prophecy to be a complete falsity, that they've got to see that this is not leading to ultimate victory, but to very quick and rapid defeat for ISIS.
John Hanna from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Let's hope that happens. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.